You're listening to Inside Lebo, a podcast giving you an inside look at Mount Lebanon, Pennsylvania, produced by Mount Lebanon's Public Information Office.
What's the top issue facing the Mount Lebanon Police Department right now? Hands down, it's fraud. Welcome back to another episode of Inside Lebo. I'm your host, Rachel Windsor, Mount Lebanon's Assistant Public Information Officer and the Senior Editor of Mount Lebanon Magazine.
And I'm Ian McMeans, Assistant Municipal Manager and Municipal Planner. Financial fraud is something that can happen to anyone, but older adults are often targeted because of their savings, trust in authority figures, or less familiarity with rapidly changing technology. The consequences can be devastating, not only financially, but emotionally as well. In today's episode, sponsored by Trouvers Jewelry, we'll talk with the police about how to recognize warning signs, avoid becoming a victim, and protect family members and friends. Joining us today from the Mount Lebanon Police Department are Police Chief Jason Haberman and Lieutenant Dan Stover. Thanks for joining us today, guys.
Thank you for having us.
So, Chief, can you tell us why is scam prevention such an important focus for the police department right now?
Yeah, absolutely. And first of all, thank you both, Ian and Rachel, for highlighting this very important topic that we care so deeply about. You know, the reason that this is such an important topic, not only for the residents of Mount Lebanon, but for all seniors and for all vulnerable population, is because we literally are seeing a generation of wealth taken right before our eyes. And this generational wealth really will not be passed down if we don't do something about the level of fraud and the magnitude of the losses that we're seeing. We're starting to see it at a frequency rate that's much higher than we ever have. And really, the fraudsters are targeting a number of not only our residents, but area residents at a rate that we haven't seen before. And so what we understand now is that this crime is very much underreported because of the guilt and shame associated with it. And so what we really want to do is encourage seniors and those who have been victimized to come forward. It's really important that not only do we get our arms around the situation, but we stay a step ahead. We really want to be in a situation where we're playing chess and the fraudsters are playing checkers. And at the time right now, we're getting all the ducks in a row. We're working with our federal, state, and local partners to really make that happen.
So how significant is the problem of elder fraud within our community?
Well, I'll actually defer to Lieutenant Stover a little bit. He's been working extensively on this situation, this problem, and really had a lot of success. And so I'll let Lieutenant Stover talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it is a very large problem. I mean, like he said, in the county as well as the state and in Mount Lebanon as well. As everyone is aware, Mount Lebanon and Pennsylvania in general, Western PA has a very large elder population, which makes it easy for them to be targeted in situations like that. The numbers that have been released recently by the FBI, just to put some numbers to it, their Internet Complaint Center, which keeps track of crimes. Once again, these are only the ones that are reported. But last year, in 2025, PA ranked 9th in the country for total losses, and the losses were over $215 million.
Wow.
And again, to echo that and emphasize that, it is vastly underreported. Mm-hmm. So that is the numbers that we know have been reported. And through our investigations, we've discovered a number of cases that were not reported at all to law enforcement.
So can you tell us why older adults are frequently targeted by scammers?
So for me, just in dealing with them and interacting with them as victims, I have noticed that, they're a very trusting generation. They believe in society and the way things work and the way they've always worked. And they're not necessarily up to date with the new technology, the way that institutions can now be impersonated. And they also, unfortunately for the elderly population, some of them are isolated, some of them are lonely. This leads to certain other types of scams, like romance scams and stuff like that, where they get someone who calls them every day, they talk with them, this person relays to them, hey, I'm trying to help you. I want to, I need this, I need you to do this, but if you do this, then I can help you with that. And so, and like you mentioned earlier in the introduction, they have a lifetime of savings that they've worked their whole lives to save.
Yeah, so that's actually a good segue too. So what are some of the tactics that you've seen that some of the scammers have used to try and gain a victim's trust? So for our listeners to know, what are some red flags to look out for?
So a lot of the things we see, they impersonate people of authority. Like I said, usually government organizations. I've seen the IRS be impersonated, the FBI be impersonated. even the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC. So another big one I've noticed is with banks. A lot of times they will get contacted and someone will say that their bank has been compromised, that their local branch has been compromised and there's employees there that are stealing money. And then they speak to them and say, hey, you need to get that money out of there and you need to turn it over to us because we can keep it safe. They'll use technology to spoof the caller ID to make it look like the call is coming from a bank or to make it look like it's coming from the federal government. They'll also provide victims with fake paperwork, that looks, at first glance, you can believe it'd be legit. I've seen them go as far as even having victims sign non-disclosure agreements so that they're sworn not to tell law enforcement or anyone else about anything. So initially when we contact them, that leads them to even lie to us at times.
And then another common scam is often referred to as the grandparent scam, and that's when someone receives a call from a person claiming to be a grandchild or a family member in trouble. So can you tell us a little bit more about those scams in particular and how people should respond?
Yeah, those were sort of some of the early ones that came out. The grandparent ones really tug on every heartstring a senior would have. Obviously, there's no more special person to them than their grandchildren. So, what typically, and the fraudsters knew that and know that. These are very calculated and very cold individuals. They really target the most precious things. And so when we started seeing a lot of the grandparent scams, it was essentially that your grandchild was either in jail, your grandchild needed money, your grandchild needed bail, some of those things that really were important. And then they would use this ruse. They would say, don't tell my mom, don't tell my dad, just send the money here, and then all will be good and all will be forgotten, so to speak. And that really that was a lot of the early ones we saw were what was called the grandparent scams. They're still out there. But we see a little bit less of that and more of some of these other ones. The pace of the fraudsters right now is moving so fast and so quickly that they're really staying up on technology and utilizing it in a way that, we are having to really spend a lot of time, energy, and resources in staying ahead of them and staying in step with them. And that part of this is understanding what the latest frauds are. That's really what the LT and his team do, and all the other partners that we work with really spend a lot of time on to make sure that we're staying ahead of it.
Great. So we're going to take a quick break here, and we'll be back and talk some more about the warning signs residents should watch out for and the steps everyone should know and take to protect themselves and their loved ones from potential fraud.
Looking for that perfect piece of jewelry? At Truver's Jewelry, you're not just a customer, you're part of the family. Locally owned by Mount Lebanon residents Rob and Kay Truver, Truver's has specialized in exquisite craftsmanship and custom jewelry design for over 30 years. Rob is an expert goldsmith, ensuring your jewelry is created with the utmost skill and care. Whether you're looking for something timeless or one of a kind, Truver's delivers it all. Visit us at the corner of West Liberty and Piermont Avenue or check us out online at truvers.com. At Truver's, it's personal.
And welcome back. We're talking with Mount Lebanon Police Chief Jason Haberman and Lieutenant Dan Stover about fraud and how residents can stay safe. So what are some of the biggest red flags that should immediately make somebody suspicious?
So one of the things that we've seen numerous times is people respond to either calls, texts, or emails that they get kind of out of nowhere that you shouldn't, the texts usually relate to like the Turnpike toll scam. I'm sure everybody here has gotten that one. Emails can be anything about making a purchase via PayPal, or another one is like tech support along those lines too. And so if you didn't request any of that stuff, then you should immediately be suspicious that now they're telling you made a purchase and now you have to call them to cancel the purchase. And if you know you didn't do that, then it's probably a good sign that it's a scam. Anytime that you're being requested to either get large amounts of money out of your bank or to send large amounts of money to anywhere that you don't know the person, you don't have you've never met them before this phone call or this text or this email, once again, that should be the red flag. Anytime at all someone's pressuring you and telling you need to make a decision right now, you need to do this right now, you don't have time to talk to a family member, a friend, or a trusted advocate, even the local police department. Anytime you're being forced with that external pressure that you have to do it and you have to do it right now. Anytime if you're interacting with someone and they want you to download an application on their computer or on your computer and let them access it and you let them see your screen or any kind of stuff like that is also a red flag. Pretty much anything involving someone requesting payment from Bitcoin, cryptocurrency in general, wanting you to go to a cryptocurrency ATM, all those things are no good. As well as if anybody's demanding payment in gift cards, like Duquesne Life, for example, is not going to take payment for your utility bill and gift cards.
Yeah.
The other one too is like, it's so important to like stop and take a second and think about it, because they'll call you and they'll put some high pressure thing on, whether it's, oh, you didn't go to jury duty, now there's a warrant for your arrest, or there's those kind of things. You have an unpaid traffic ticket. Like, no one from the government is going to call and threaten you and demand immediate payment. That's just not something that is done.
So those are all really good red flags to look out for. What steps can people take to protect themselves from potential fraud?
So one of the things we're advocating is a few things here. So one of the steps that we're really advocating to, first of all, utilize any online banking tools you have to help protect you from any mail scams or any mail thefts that are out there. We're seeing also a lot of mail thefts that result in fraud as well. So the blue boxes you see on the side of the road really aren't secure, in the sense that the same key that's been opening those has been opening those for many, many years. And so what we're finding is if you have to mail something, take it into the post office and mail it, hand it to a postal employee, make sure that they understand that they receive it, and that way you know at least that it's going at some point to the right place. When you write personal checks, you can utilize your online banking tools, go to your local bank branch, and they will teach you how to do that should you not know how. We also advocate for people to really dual authenticate any large purchases or large withdrawals. And what we're asking is that you have a friend, a relative, somebody confidant, that, again, if it is a number that's over your normal amount, anything that's outside your normal scope of spending, that you authenticate this with a loved one, that they can, again, give you feedback whether it's a valid purchase or not. So what we're really trying to educate seniors and vulnerable people on is that fact, that you really need to have a network of folks that you trust. And unfortunately, it is too rampant and too common that we see even highly educated individuals get taken advantage of. And it has nothing to do with somebody's education. It has everything to do with emotion and people playing on emotion and people taking advantage of folks. And so it's nothing to be ashamed of if you have been. What we're advocating for is really putting those, what we call tripwires, in place that allow you to stop the furtherance of these crimes.
And how would you say families can have conversations with older relatives about these scams without making them feel embarrassed or singled out? Like you said, shame is so prevalent with these crimes. Like, how can people navigate these conversations?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really just establishing a protocol, establishing that procedure with your loved one to say, this is nothing personal, this is nothing that you've done or nothing you haven't done. It's just making sure that we aren't victims and that generational wealth is not taken from us. That is really the fact of what's going on. And if you really want to get down to the nuts and bolts of what we're trying to protect, is all of this money is leaving the economy. All of this money is going overseas. Like the lieutenant mentioned with Bitcoin, there's no good reason for anyone to use a Bitcoin ATM. The fees are far too high. Anybody that's in the Bitcoin game will tell you that is not an appropriate way to exchange Bitcoin. And that is something that we're really trying to educate people on. Is there's a number of things that have come out that really aren't in the mainstream financial world, and yet it's out there, and it's being allowed to really allow fraudsters and allow criminals to utilize Bitcoin ATMs to funnel funds outside the scope of the economy and really take advantage of the network. And so that's what we would advocate, is really have these tough, difficult conversations, know that everybody's susceptible. You know, I talk to my family, I talk to my dad, he lives here, and I tell him all the time, don't give any money to anybody ever. And I'll say it all the time, and I'll say it to anybody else. It's really, if anyone is legitimate, you will know it. And if you're giving money to a Bitcoin, call us because you're being scammed.
So in that kind of worst case scenario situation. If someone thinks they may have been targeted or already sent money off to someone that they are starting to have second guesses about, what should the immediate first steps be that they take?
So I would immediately contact your local police department. Let them know what is going on. Make sure you save copies of everything that you did. A lot of times with the Bitcoin scams, for example, the victims will receive a barcode that has a wallet ID on it, and that's how they know where to send the money. So all of that kind of information, the first phone call should be your local police, and then after that you can contact your banking facilities and your banking institutions and let them know that you believe you were the victim of a scam, and they can start doing things on their end to help prevent it. But the sooner we find out about it and are able to act on it, the better chance you have. It's still honestly a slim chance, but the better chance that we have to possibly intercept some of those funds.
And I'll tell you, working with our state, local, and federal partners, we've had some success at recovering funds. And that's really the key to this partnership that we participate in, and this educational benefit that we're continuing to utilize is really making sure that we can intercept these fraudsters early. But early intervention is key for us. The sooner we know, the better it is for us. So I agree and I echo that. Really, you have to call us. Call us anytime, and if you feel like you're being frauded right now, please call us, and we're glad to take a look at it. And if it's not a fraud, we'll be glad to tell you. And if it is a fraud, we'll also, do what we need to do to bring these individuals to justice.
Great. And can you tell us a little bit more about how the Mount Lebanon Police Department is working to educate residents about fraud prevention?
Yeah, I think you're seeing it. I think thanks to folks like yourselves and giving us these platforms to speak to residents and others who travel to Mount Lebanon and live here and visit friends and family here. What's really important to us is we have a multi-pronged approach. We really are putting it out there through various different medias so people understand it, whether they read it, they see it in a magazine, or whether they hear it on a podcast, or whether they visibly see it through an educational material that we're putting out. We really want to make sure people understand how much of a priority this is for our department, how much of a priority this is for us to really help them to really, again, keep their wealth intact and, again, utilize it for the right reasons. And the other part to that is the next step is really educating our law enforcement officers and law enforcement partners as best we can. And we continue to move efforts in that way, whether it's with the FBI and IRS and our other U.S. Attorney's Office and other local partners to really form a toolkit for officers as well to educate them and how to respond to these calls and make sure that they understand the next best practices and next steps. So right now we really are immersed in this. It's something that we continue to educate the public in any way we possibly can, but we really appreciate the opportunity to talk about this subject, not only to, again, keep that generational wealth intact, but also to bring these individuals to justice. And we've had a lot of success in doing that.
And if anyone's listening and has, a group of residents, if it's like at a community center, that they would benefit from a presentation, is that something that you guys offer to different groups that you go out and speak to them about this? Is that something that they could reach out to you if they're interested in learning more?
Absolutely. Our community outreach unit has a great program they do, and we would love to come out anytime and talk to anybody we can about it.
Great. And so I know from, talking with you, Chief, and you, Lieutenant, over time that, you mentioned technology changing a lot too, and how, some of the old indicators that people used to look for like in a scam email, for instance, that there'd be misspellings, and AI has really revolutionized that now those indicators that people used to look for are kind of gone because scammers can plug in their prompt to AI and just kind of copy paste it over. So a lot of those old things that you would look for are gone. You have to be even more aware of what's happening and what information people are asking for. So you've given us a lot today, but if listeners have one thing to kind of take from today's conversation, what do you want that message to be?
Okay.
I would say that before you go to a bank and withdraw money or send money anywhere to someone you don't know, make sure that you speak to someone else about it. Whether it's, like I said, a friend, a family member. If you're concerned and you don't want to share it with them, call the police. We will gladly come over and talk with you about it. I think the key is to prevent as much of this as we can. So that would be my number one thing.
And I would echo what I said earlier. Don't give money to anybody for any reason outside the scope of your normal course of business.
Great. Well, thank you, Chief Haberman and Lieutenant Stover, for joining us and sharing these important insights. And to our listeners, be sure to visit mountlebanon.org. That's mtlebanon.org/scams. And remember the key warning signs. Hang up on callers that you don't know. Never share personal information. Don't click on unknown links. And never allow remote access to your computer or pay anyone using gift cards or cryptocurrency like Bitcoin.
So that's all for today's episode of Inside Lebo, sponsored by Trouvers Jewelry, produced by Marcia Morgenstern, with music by Drew Monyo and graphics by Amy Robinson. Be sure to subscribe for future episodes, and we'll see you next time with more from Mount Lebanon.
Thanks for listening to Inside Lebo, produced by Mount Lebanon's Public Information Office. Learn more about all things Lebo at mountlebanon.org or by following our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages.